Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, we'll go to chapter 11, text 49. This chapter is entitled The Universal Form. Oh, 39? Is that right? You gave a class last night, Boo? And you spoke up into that verse? Okay. So we'll start on say 49? Text 49, which is page 582. I'll get it on the screen here as well. So we will read 11 verses together in unison and the translation together as well. Mate vyatama chavimhuda bhavo drishtva rupam godham hitrin mamedam vyapeta bhipritam hanapunastvam tad evam he rupamidam prapashya. Translation: Your mind has been perturbed upon seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from all disturbance. With the peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Text 50. Sanjaya Uvacha Ityarjunam Vasudev Vastatoktva Swakam Rupam Darshayam Hasabuya Ashwasayam Hasabichabitam Menam Bhutva Punha Saumyavapur Mahatma. Translation: Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, while speaking thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last he showed his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. To the screen. Text 51. Arjuna Uvacha Drishvedham Hanusham Rupam Tapasam Yam Janardana Idanim Asmi Samvrita Sacheta Prakritim Gata. Translation: When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, seeing this human-like form so very beautiful, my mind is now pacified, and I am restored to my original nature. Text 52. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Sudurdarsham Hidam Rupam Trishtavan Hasiyan Mama Deva Apyasya Rupasya Nityam Darshana Kankshinaha. The Blessed Lord said, my dear Arjuna, the form which you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear. Text 53. Naham vedair tapasa natane nanache jaya shakya hevam vidho drashtum drashtabhan hasimham yata. Translation: the form which you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Text 54. Bhaktya twanhanyaya shakya aham evam vidho Arjuna gyatum drashtum cha tatvena praveshtum cha parantapa. Translation. My dear Arjuna, only by undivided devotional service can I be understood as I am, standing before you, and can thus be seen directly. Only in this way can you enter into the mysteries of my understanding. Text 55. Mat karma krin mat paramo mad bhakta sangha varjita nivairha sarva bhuteshu yasa mam iti pandava. Translation. My dear Arjuna, one who is engaged in my pure devotional service, free from the contaminations of previous activities and from mental speculation, who is friendly to every living entity, certainly comes to me. All right, let's see. That brings us to the end of chapter 11. So that was what text was that? 56? 50, that was 55, okay. Couple more here. Chapter 12, entitled Devotional Service, text 1. Arjuna uvacha evam satata yuktya ye bhaktastam parupasate ye chap yaksharam avyaktam tesham ke yoga vittamaha. Shri Shri Gonatai Ki Jai. Translation. Arjuna inquired, which is considered to be more perfect, those who are properly engaged in your devotional service, or those who worship the impersonal Brahman, the unmanifested? Text 2. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Maya Veshya Manoye Mam Nitya Yukta Upasate Sharaya Parayo Petas Tamhe Yukta Tamhamataha. Translation. The Blessed Lord said, he whose mind is fixed on my personal form, always engaged in worshipping me with great and transcendental faith, is considered by me to be most perfect. Texts 3 and 4. This will be the end of our reading. Ye tvaksharham anirdeshyam avyaktam parupasite sarvatra kamachintyam cha kutastam hachalam juvam sanniham yendriya gramam sarvatra samabhudayaha te prapnuvanti mameva sarva bhuta hiterataha. Translation. But those who fully worship the unmanifested, that which lies beyond the perception of the senses, the all-pervading, inconceivable, fixed, and immovable, the impersonal conception of the absolute truth, by controlling the various senses and being equally disposed to everyone, such persons engaged in the welfare of all at last achieve me. Okay, we'll go back to chapter 11, text 49. There you go. Translation. Your mind has been perturbed upon seeing this horrible feature of mine. Now let it be finished. My devotee, be free from all disturbance. With a peaceful mind, you can now see the form you desire. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimate. Hare Krishna devotees, thank you for being here. Hare Krishna. We're reading chapter 11, the universal form, and as we're finishing up, Lord Krishna has just let this display, which he called his horrible feature of his, he's let that be finished. He's given Arjuna the great good fortune of again once seeing this form of his two-handed form is the original personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, which is most desirable to all living entities. It's the original, it's the fountainhead of all other incarnations, the origin of all origins. Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. He's the prime origin of all living entities, and he's the cause of all causes. So now seeing this great transcendental and gorgeous form of the Lord, Arjuna is pacified. And we'll hear as we continue on, Arjuna, as we just read, poses some nice questions. So let us read from the purport given to us by A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and let us take to heart his very kind words that he shared with us to free us from all impediments on the path of going back to Godhead. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was worried about killing Bhishma and Drona, his worshipful grandfathers and masters. But Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When they tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty, they should be killed. This is on the basis of which this is on the basis of which the whole war began. It was the factor of which all other factors culminated into this this negligence of duty that happened in the assembly hall as the Pandava's wife Draupadi was she was captured and humiliated in front of so many people, and these two great personalities, Bhishma and Drona. Grandfather Bhishma is practically a relative of the Pandavas, and Drona was their military arts guru. So they had a very close relationship as well. He instilled so much knowledge about the martial arts, the military arts. So these were two personalities very dear to the Pandavas, and the Pandavas had so much wrongdoings to them that brought about the battle of Kurukshetra. Their kingdom was usurped, stolen from them. Their house was burned down intentionally in the attempt to, end their lives, and so much more. So actually, Arjuna and his brothers, they had every reason to fight. In the Vedas, it's given circumstances in which one is allowed to retaliate, and actually, the Pandavas were qualified on all accounts to retaliate and actually declare war on their brothers, on the enemies. But still, with such a soft heart that a pure devotee like Arjuna has, he still is hesitant. And seeing his kinsmen, his brothers, his uncles, his friends who he had known all of his life, seeing them aligned on the other side of that battlefield was too much for him to bear. Of course, we can understand also that Arjuna was put into that illusion for our benefit, because without him falling under such illusion, there'd be no basis for the Bhagavad Gita to be spoken. So there needed to be someone playing the fool, playing the illusioned, so that Arjuna, he asks perfect questions. After he submits to Krishna in chapter 2, he takes the role of the submissive disciple. And in this way, he shows so many examples of how the disciple should behave on their path to understanding transcendental knowledge. One must take a submissive role. Karpanya dosho pahata sabhavaha prichchami tvam dharma samudachetaha yat shreyasyam nishitam bruhitane shishyas teham shari mam tvam prapanam. Shishyas means you're willing to be instructed. You're not just tolerant of the instructions, but actually you say, in one that you recognize to be an authority, you are seeking their corrections. You're excited to be corrected. You like that. So we also hear a great example of what it means to be a disciple, submissive follower in chapter 4, verse 11 or 12, I think. Tad vidi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tatpadarshinaha. That tatpadarshinaha, because one on an elevated platform, pure devotee, because he has walked the path of devotional service, because he has seen the truth, he can then bestow it onto others. So we should be careful with who we hear from, who we seek knowledge from, and we should conduct ourselves in that way to hear from someone who has actually attained that very position that we someday seek to attain ourselves. And we do that through submissive inquiry and humble service, right? So through the recognition that actually this person is, in comparison to this person, I'm no one, I'm nothing. I'm at best, at my good fortune, just a speck of dust on their lotus feet. So this is the humble mood that one approaches Guru. And there's actually great and powerful reward for someone. The reward of devotional service for true transcendental knowledge. This idea of humility or service to others in the material world is a great pain for the false ego to try to wrap itself around. We actually look at it as something, a lower position, taking the lower position. But really what it is it's highlighting the strength within oneself and the resolute determination that they have to begin this process of devotional service. And that takes understanding that this material world, this material energy, there's not much here in the way that can actually lead us to that peace that we search for. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya parhita chetasam vyava satyatmika buddhi samadhau na vidiyate. That in the mind of those who are materially attached, the resolute determination for devotional service never takes place. So it's about understanding and meticulously observing this material nature and all that it's done for us, and the entanglement, its clutches that it's wrapped us up in. We have to see that. We have to really come to understand that this material enjoyment, it's not my enjoyment. This material energy is actually my suffering. So I'm sitting here thinking that unless I'm victim of the material energy, which leads me to enjoying my senses very selfishly through my tongue, my belly, and my genitals, unless I fulfill those needs, the conditioned mind, the conditioned intelligence is thinking at the direction of the false ego. It's thinking that this world is very dull unless I satisfy those three things. But really the world is full of so much beauty and relationship ultimately with Krishna. Everywhere we look, there's Krishna. It's just that we're numb to that reality. If we were uncovered and situated proper in realization of that, then we would see that there's no need to set our sights on such temporary pleasure. But actually those senses that we come in contact with, that we try to enjoy and exploit, and get as much out of as we can, actually, those are sources of misery, because those have a beginning and an end. Adyantavanta konteya. So therefore, the wise man does not delight. He does not delight in such temporary pleasure with beginning and end. So I'll continue on here in the purport. Krishna said that he need not be afraid of killing his grandfather. When they tried to disrobe Draupadi in the assembly, Bhishma and Drona were silent, and for such negligence of duty they should be killed. Krishna showed his universal form to Arjuna, just to show him that these people were already killed for their unlawful action. That scene was shown to Arjuna because devotees are always peaceful, and they cannot perform such horrible actions. The purpose of the revelation of the universal form was shown. Now Arjuna wanted to see the four-armed form, and Krishna showed him. A devotee is not much interested in the universal form, for it does not enable one to reciprocate loving feelings. A devotee wants to offer his respectful worshipping feelings. Thus, he wants to see the two-handed or four-handed form, Krishna, so he can reciprocate in loving service with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. More on the idea that actually loving service is it's a blissful exchange. As I was mentioning, service here in the material world is it's a great burden on the conditioned soul. But a devotee, he wants to offer his respectful worshipping feelings. And this is ultimately the supreme position of the bhakti yogi, is that he has the ability to reciprocate with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Better than just attaining liberation into the Brahma Jyotir is to actually engage in transcendental loving relationship with its source, which is Lord Sri Krishna. So, all right, that's very nice to attain the transcendental position of Brahman, of realizing that I'm Brahman, I'm spirit. But we should acknowledge what lies beyond that and not get caught in, and ultimately what is the temporary designation of being on that platform of Brahman Jyotir, merging into that Brahman effulgence. We can't sustain that because the soul has this insatiable need to serve Krishna, and without any engagement in that way, then there won't be full satisfaction. It says that the only way to completely satisfy the self is unmotivated and uninterrupted service. And there's so many different ways to do that. We shouldn't look at service as some sort of burden. This is a great impediment, actually, because it's our great opportunity to perfect our lives, to reinstate ourselves in our eternal position, which is full of knowledge and full of bliss. Text 50. Sanjaya said to Dhritarashtra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, while speaking thus to Arjuna, displayed his real four-armed form, and at last he showed him his two-armed form, thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. A quick reminder that this Bhagavad Gita is actually being spoken by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra, who is the uncle of Arjuna, the father of Duryodhana and Dushasana and all of these Kauravas. He had 101 sons, I think, or 100 sons and then one daughter, I think it was. Anyway, all of these sons died on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. And we hear the aftermath of what this did to Dhritarashtra and his wife Gandhari in Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 13. It was pretty heavy aftermath. Just imagine all of your sons dying on the battlefield in such gruesome ways. But this was all part of the pastime, and here we have Sanjaya speaking to Dhritarashtra. Sanjaya is a direct disciple of Vyasadeva, who's actually the compiler of all Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita included, and Srimad Bhagavatam, all the Vedic works. So he's the third, fourth down the line, including Lord Sri Krishna. So on the top row, third personality over. He has the bluish tint. And he's the spiritual master of Sanjaya. Sanjaya was a great devotee of the Lord. Though he was loyal to Dhritarashtra, he was recognized as a great personality devoted to Krishna. And Vyasadeva actually gave him this great boon, this benediction of being able to see beyond what was right in front of him. So he's actually, to my understanding, maybe Maharaj or anyone else can correct me on this, as this battle was taking place, Sanjay is dictating what's going on in real time to Dhritarashtra, who was anxiously waiting on the edge of his seat to see whether or not his sons come out victorious. Dhritarashtra was blind, both physically and spiritually, and therefore he wasn't eligible to receive a kingdom, though he was actually first in line. He should have been the one to take the reins of the kingdom, but because of his condition, his handicap, he didn't quite make the cut in his qualification. So therefore, he kind of used his son Duryodhana, his most prominent, oldest son, as a means to, live vicariously through him and feeling that kind of control that comes with having such opulence in the way of a whole kingdom. So, the Supreme Personality of Godhead speaking, Krishna, while speaking thus to Arjuna, he displayed his real four-armed form and at last showed him his two-armed form, and thus encouraging the fearful Arjuna. Purport. When Krishna appeared as the son of Vasudeva and Devaki, he first of all appeared as four-armed Narayan, but when he was requested by his parents, he transformed himself into an ordinary child in appearance. Similarly, Krishna knew that Arjuna was not interested in seeing a four-handed form of Krishna. But since he asked to see this four-handed form, he also showed him this form again, and then showed himself in his two-handed form. The word Samya Vapu is very significant. Samya Vapu is a very beautiful form. It is known as the most beautiful form. When he was present, everyone was attracted simply by Krishna's form. And because Krishna is director of the universe, he just banished the fear of Arjuna, his devotee, and showed him again his beautiful form of Krishna. It's incredible that just by seeing Krishna, all fear might be banished. And it's said in the Srimad Bhagavatam first canto that Krishna is actually feared by fear personified. So Krishna, in the same way as like the sun rising, how it dispels all darkness. One who is in the direct association of Lord Krishna, well, all fear is vanquished from his horizons as well. And as we're chanting the holy name of Krishna, it's actually true that we're associating directly with Krishna. To the degree that we understand that is also to the same degree that we make ourselves fearless. Well, that we feel the effects of his association and that we become fearless. So this is the importance of chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, is to rid ourselves of all complexities, the fear, the anxiety, the envy, all of these things, and that we might make ourselves eligible for at the time of death going back to Krishna. That's really why we chant the Maha Mantras. And that's why we have a sadhana, a spiritual discipline to practice, is so that we can make ourselves prepared for that last moment, which will undoubtedly be the most intense. I mean, it's true that Krishna, he can remove all barriers, so he can make that last moment for us, in one sense, very enjoyable. He has that power. I don't see why he wouldn't. It's said that for the devotee, death is like, for the devotee who's like a cat or like a kitten, a baby kitten, death is like the jaws of a kitten. So his mother, that little baby kitten, his mother holds him very safely in his mouth. And this is like death for the devotee. He's protected through that experience of leaving his body. But that same experience of leaving one's body is completely different and utterly fearful. And entangling for one who is like a rat, but by those same jaws of that kitten is seized in its mouth. The rat is killed by the kitten, and the rat is killed by the cat, and the kitten is nourished and protected by the same jaws of that cat. So like that, we're preparing for that last moment of our death. It said, Antakale ta purusha, agata gatisadvashaha, chindyara sangashastrena, spriham dehe nuyechatam. That at the last moment of one's life, one should one should be bold enough, it says, to become freed from all fear surrounding death. Like that. One should be bold enough to take shelter of Krishna's name and forget all material desires. At that moment, it's crucial that we just take full, unadulterated fear of Krishna, because he and he only can banish the fear in the same way that he did Arjuna, simply by showing him his beautiful form. Let us recognize Krishna's beautiful form and his transcendental name. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that only a person whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of love can see the beautiful form of Sri Krishna. This is a gradual process that we're working towards. This is the purpose of all religion, is to reawaken this love that lies dormant within our heart. Next verse. When Arjuna thus saw Krishna in his original form, he said, "Seeing this human-like form, so very beautiful, my mind is now pacified, and I am restored to my original nature." Purport. Here the words Manusham Rupam clearly indicate the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be originally two-handed. Those who deride Krishna to be an ordinary person are shown here to be ignorant of his divine nature. If Krishna is like an ordinary human being, then how is it possible for him to show the universal form and again show the four-handed Narayan form? So it is very clearly stated in Bhagavad Gita that one who thinks that Krishna is an ordinary person and misguides the reader by claiming that it is the impersonal Brahman within Krishna speaking is doing the greatest injustice. Krishna has actually shown his universal form and his four-handed Vishnu form. So how can he be an ordinary human being? A pure devotee is not confused by misguiding commentaries on Bhagavad Gita because he knows what is what. The original verses of Bhagavad Gita are as clear as the sun. They do not require lamplight from foolish commentators. Jai. Next text. The Blessed Lord said, "My dear Arjuna, the form which you are now seeing is very difficult to behold. Even the demigods are ever seeking the opportunity to see this form which is so dear." In the 48th verse of this chapter, Lord Krishna concluded revealing his universal form and informed Arjuna that this form is not possible to be seen by so many activities, sacrifices, etc. Now here the word Sudardasham is used, indicating that Krishna's two-handed form is still more confidential. One may be able to see the universal form of Krishna by adding a little tinge of devotional service to various activities like penance, Vedic study, and philosophical speculation, etc. It may be possible, but without a tinge of bhakti, one cannot see. That has already been explained. Still beyond that universal form, the form of Krishna as a two-handed man is still more difficult to see. Even for demigods like Brahma and Lord Shiva, they desire to see him, and we have evidences in the Srimad Bhagavatam that when he was supposed to be in the womb of his mother Devaki, all the demigods from heaven came to see the marvel of Krishna. They even waited to see him. A foolish person may deride him, but that is an ordinary person. Krishna is actually desired to be seen by demigods like Brahma and Shiva in his two-armed form. In Bhagavad Gita, it is also confirmed that he is not visible to the foolish persons who deride him. Krishna's body, as confirmed by Brahma Samhita, and confirmed by himself in Bhagavad Gita, is completely spiritual and full of bliss and eternality. His body is never like a material body. But for some who make a study of Krishna by reading Bhagavad Gita or similar Vedic scriptures, Krishna is a problem. For one using a material process, Krishna is considered to be a great historical personality and very learned philosopher. But he isn't an ordinary man. But some think that even though he was so powerful, he had to accept a material body. Ultimately, they think that the absolute truth is impersonal. Therefore, they think that from his impersonal feature, he assumed a personal feature, attached to material nature. This is the materialistic calculation of the Supreme Lord. Another calculation is speculative. Those who are in the search of knowledge also speculate on Krishna and consider him to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. Thus, some think that the universal form of Krishna, which was manifested to Arjuna, is more important than his personal form. According to them, the personal form of the Supreme is something imaginary. They believe that in the ultimate issue, the absolute truth is not a person, but the transcendental process is described in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, to hear about Krishna from authorities. That is the actual Vedic process. And those who are actually in the Vedic line hear about Krishna from authority. And by repeated hearing about him, Krishna becomes dear. This is the process. Last Friday we heard from Srila Prabhupada that how simple our process is. We hear, and it's that same knowledge that we then chant. So first we hear, then we chant. And recently, just last night actually, I saw that they're coming out with this new Mahabharat film about Krishna, and they showcased his universal form, and Krishna was speaking in that little trailer clip, and it was all about this very thing, how actually what did it say? That some consider Krishna to be less important than the universal form of the Supreme. And that was exactly the message of this video that I was watching. And I was just thinking to myself, as it says that here, Krishna is the most confidential. These people, they're not eligible to actually understand the real purport of Bhagavad Gita. Though right there in the pages, within the Sanskrit words that have been spoken, the truth is there, very evident. Krishna is a personality, a supreme personality, by which all other personalities emanate. It's not that hard to grasp by the mercy of the devotees, but for one outside of the disciplic line of succession, for one engaged in speculative pursuits, he doesn't make himself visible. So that's his prerogative. He doesn't, need to show himself to anyone. But to the devotee who comes to hold Krishna dear, Krishna then reciprocates. According to the degree that we approach him, he reciprocates. Yayata mam prapadyante. And then he brings us all that we lack. So we're getting close to the end here. We can finish the purport, or if anyone has any questions, you can ask some questions or comments. Okay, we'll keep going. For one who is a surrendered soul, the absolute truth can actually be understood. The transcendentalist, by continuous Krishna consciousness and by devotional service to Krishna, can have his spiritual eyes opened and can see Krishna by revelation. Such a revelation is not possible, even for the demigods. Therefore, it is difficult even for the demigods to understand Krishna. And the advanced demigods are always in hopes of seeing Krishna in his two-handed form. The conclusion is that although to see the universal form of Krishna is very, very difficult and not possible for anyone and everyone, it is still more difficult to understand his personal form of Shyama Sundar. Next verse. The form which you are seeing with your transcendental eyes cannot be understood simply by studying the Vedas, nor by undergoing serious penances, nor by charity, nor by worship. It is not by these means that one can see me as I am. Vedeshu Durlabam Adurlabam Atma Bhaktao. That Krishna is inaccessible to the Vedas. You cannot approach Krishna by the mind, by any type of gyan, any knowledge like that. But there is one sense, you could say, that leads one to directly perceive Krishna, and that's bhakti. It's the sense of devotional service. The good sense of devotional service is bhakti. And it's through this bhakti that we purify our senses, actually. We are lifted up from all material designations. Sarvo padivanir muktam. We go beyond material designations. Tat parattvena nirmalam. Harishikena harishikesha. Sevanam bhaktir uchyate. That real, actually, devotional service means service unto the master of the senses, Hrishikesh, Lord Krishna. And by such devotional service, engagement of our senses in the service of Him, Himself, His pleasure, then two things happen. Namely, the senses become purified, and we simultaneously, as that happens, become freed from all material designations. So only Bhakti Yoga, this is the conclusive way of knowledge for this Kali Yuga that we find ourselves in. The Yuga Dharma. We can wrap it up there unless anyone would like to make a comment. But thank you for hearing Bhagavad Gita. Srila Prabhupada ki. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna.